It's been a busy weekend in the world of diplomacy. The G7 summit took place in Hiroshima. They had a last-minute guest, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. The Quad leaders met in Japan. Their summit in Australia was cancelled because Biden had to rush back home. He's navigating a debt ceiling crisis. Then Italy's Prime Minister had to cut short her trip too. Her country has been hit by floods. She returned, but not before telling the Canadian Prime Minister to stop mansplaining. That's a story for another day. Tonight, let me tell you about one leader who's been making strides, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He's on a three-nation tour and halfway through it. Today, he was in Papua New Guinea. It's a tiny Pacific island that's now making international headlines. Modi's visit began on a unique note. Let me show you what it looked like. That's James Marape, the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea. He's touching the feet of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In Indian culture, you would know, this is a way to show respect to your elders, a way to seek their blessings. But it's not something you see heads of state do in public. So this was a special gesture. And today, Prime Minister Marape showered praises on the Indian Prime Minister. Let me quote from what he said. "We are victims of global power play. You, Prime Minister Modi, are the leader of the global South. We will rally behind your, that is India's leadership at global forums. These nations sitting before you, Mr. Prime Minister, have high costs of fuel and power tariffs in their own countries, and we suffer as a result of big nations at play in terms of geopolitics and the power struggles out there."
We are victims of global power play. We want you to be an advocate for us as you sit in those meetings and continue to fight for the rights of small emerging nations and emerging economies.
It was a passionate appeal. Prime Minister Marape was speaking on behalf of this region, the Pacific. It has 14 island nations. Their leaders were all present in today's meeting with the Indian Prime Minister. They're participating in the Forum for India-Pacific Island Cooperation. Their first meeting happened in 2014, the second one in 2015, and then nothing for almost 8 years. Other priorities took over. You could call it policy neglect. What happened today was their third meeting. Why now? Because the world is changing and the world order is changing. The Pacific wants India's attention and support. As Prime Minister Marape put it, they're victims of global power play, of the Cold War between America and China. Both want to control the Pacific Islands. Both want greater access to these waters. They're expanding their military presence and pushing for more influence, and the Pacific nations are too small to push back. They are being forced to choose between the US and China, and they're hoping that India can come to their rescue as the anchor of stability. Hence the effort to woo Prime Minister Modi. Through gestures, through speeches, and through awards, he's been conferred with top honors today. He's been given the highest civilian awards of Papua New Guinea and Fiji. Prime Minister Modi has been awarded for championing Pacific Island unity and for spearheading the cause of the global South. In response, Mr. Modi said the Pacific can count on India.
आपका डेवलपमेंट पार्टनर होने पर गर्व महसूस करता है। मानवीय सहायता हो या फिर आपका विकास, भारत को आप भरोसेमंद पार्टनर के रूप में देख सकते हैं, विश्वास कर सकते हैं।
So that was the Prime Minister's message. But what's in it for India? Well, lots. Number one, a way to counter China and its expansionist agenda in the region. Number two, access to new trade links. Number three, access to vast ocean resources of the Pacific like nickel, lithium and cobalt. Number four, partnership on common goals like sustainable development, climate change, food and energy security. So there's a lot of scope for convergence. New Delhi will have to overcome the tyranny of distance to make the most of it. They've identified key areas of cooperation like clean energy, technology, solar electrification, and India can leave an immediate impact in these areas. The trick is to keep at it, to not let other, seemingly more urgent issues to take over, like it happened in the case of America. President Biden was also supposed to be in Papua New Guinea today, the first presidential visit in decades, but he cancelled it. In his place, Secretary of State Blinken has arrived. He signed a military pact with Papua New Guinea. With this, America will expand military access in the region, and US personnel and contractors may get legal immunity to freely operate here. In return, the island will get US military supplies like ballistic helmets, flak jackets, and armor plates, among other things. The US will pay for all of this. Reports say it will cost America barely $45 million. It's nothing for them. China, too, has been signing deals in the region, promising to spend on development and security in return for access. And that's exactly what Prime Minister Marape was referring to. These countries need monetary and security assistance. The Pacific Islands, they need it. But when it comes from the big powers, it also means compromising with their sovereignty. But that's not the case with India. New Delhi forges partnerships. That's what Pacific Islands hope to get with Prime Minister Modi's visit.